Let me share my screen. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Smart Visit Book Club. So today or tonight, depending on where you are joining us from, we will have one of our members reviewing the book written by Dr. Choolwe, Choolwe, the book title, You Are More Than You Know. I can give an introduction about our presenter, and the presenter will talk about the book. So our colleague Chambamba Gumbo will take us through this interesting book review. And Chambamba Gumbo is a banker, a banking and financial professional, and a data analyst, and is a business consultant with vast experience. And the interesting part about Chambamba Gumbo is also an author. It's interesting to see an author reviewing the author's book, another author's book, in this case, Dr. Choolwe, Choolwe. So we will have an interesting conversation. Chambamba runs a group of youth and other people who are looking forward to improve on their performance, career performance, and in any other fields that they are pursuing, which he calls steps to the top. This is where he shares some insights to the young people and other people with interest to grow and to become high performers. He's so passionate about authorship, and he's so passionate about helping the young people. So even at this moment, I think he's sharing this review with so much passion. So before we proceed, I hand over to Chambamba Gumbo. Let me just share some some rules as you have joined this online review. So by joining this review, you have given us the consent. We are recording this review, and it will be shared on my YouTube channel and other platforms. And I'll try to see if I can also run it live on Facebook. Please, if you have some questions, please, Chambamba will allow you to ask those questions. So you can mute your mic when you are not speaking. Please just do that. And when you are asking the question, please just be polite. Do not attack an individual, but let's just focus on the content. And let's give respect and space to one another. Whenever we want to speak, raise your hand and you will be given your time to speak. For the camera, it's optional. You can switch it on or you can switch it off, but we can recommend that when you are not speaking, you just switch off the camera. And when you want to type the subject or the question, the comment that is related to what we are discussing. And if you want to join the WhatsApp group where we share different types of books, the link will be shared in the chat box, and you can interact with like-minded people. So at Smart Visit, our focus is to allow individuals to experience self-growth. When you log on our WhatsApp group, at least you can find any content that can support what you are looking for. Those are the benefits in finance, business, entrepreneurship, religion, history, philosophy, any other subject that you are looking for. You can find it there so that we can grow and make our communities, make our families and the nation better. The growth starts at an individual level. So we inspire self-growth. At this moment, I'm inviting Chambamba Gumbo to lead us through. Chambamba, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mwila, and thanks for this opportunity. Welcome everyone to this book review. Thanks for that great introduction and a nice and kind words. So I think just for the sake of managing a network, I will just switch off the video so that we concentrate on the presentation. Like Ali has introduced, my name is Chambamba Gumbo, a banking profession and also a data scientist. I have authored also 2 books, How to Climb the Corporate Ladder and Smart Study Tips 101. Today, we will mainly focus on one of the books which actually has helped me in my personal growth life and also given me some hints on how sometimes I can navigate and do some of the things. So today we are reviewing, and I'm so happy that we are doing a book review of one of our local authors. So we are reviewing a book entitled, You Are More Intelligent Than You Know. This is a book which was authored by Pastor Choolwe, M. Choolwe, fondly known as Pastor Choolwe. Briefly about the author, he is the founder of the Gospel Envoys Church. I'm sure most of you, especially if you're in Osaka, might have heard about this church with their main church, which is situated in Chadley near Chambamba Valley, ZNS. Pastor Choolwe is a renowned speaker, a coach, and a mentor. I'm glad also to mention that not only did Pastor Choolwe mentor me and coach me in my leadership growth journey, but he was also one of my seniors at secondary school back in Kingston at St. Raffles. Pastor Choolwe has published quite a number of articles and books, but mainly the main books which are out there and for sale. One of them is The Dream Killer, which talks about how other people's dreams have been shattered and how you can just come out of that. He's written a book called Champion's Diary. He's written What I've Learned as a Youth and Converting Ideas into Reality. Pastor Choolwe also runs a number of programs on radio. One of them, and I think one of the famous Night of Destiny, which he has been running for quite some time now, a great program for youth and just leadership growth. He is also, like I said, not just a coach, but a John Maxwell certified, trained coach and leadership who is actually in the executive group of that. So why I picked on reviewing this book titled, You Are More Intelligent Than You Know. I think in this book, the author put it so nicely, as we will see when we're getting into the book, with regards how the source and what intelligence really is, right? He, of course, tries to combine the spiritual and the civil aspect of it to just explain to everyone and just to have everyone understand what really intelligence is and what is the source of this intelligence we have. Now, in this book or in this review, we're going to mainly look at the 6 chapters in this book, which is defining what intelligence is, exams versus intelligence, the true source of intelligence, the chronics of supernatural intelligence, and why you are more intelligent, and then functioning in the supernatural intelligent. Yes, of course, this book has got some spiritual or Christianity connotation to it. And like I've already introduced, because of course, the author being a pastor himself, we expect that. But not only that, one thing I liked about this book when I read it it also brings in the civil aspect of it, as we will see when we go deep or dive into the reviews of each and every chapter itself. So to start with, and one of the favorite quotes I like in this book was one which he quoted about the Wright brothers. These are if you know your history about aeroplanes, Orville Wright was one of the Wright brothers who actually made the first aeroplane. So the favorite quote is, "There is little hope for advance if we believe that reality is fixed and only accept truths as truth." Now, amazing, right, for a pastor to be writing or quoting the Wright brothers in a book like this. And this is what is so amazing and a great start to how this book, he laid it out to be able to define intelligence and be able to cement it and tell it to us that we are more intelligent actually than we know. One sentence summary I might give about this book is that you are the optimal of God's creation and the only one of all his capable creation, capable of coordinating the rest of the creation, to improve the process and surroundings of life. I think this one, in terms of summarizing this whole book, actually tells it all, that actually as an individual, and as the author had put it in here, that really each and every individual is actually more intelligent than we think. When we dive into the deep of this book, we will get to learn and also be able to appreciate that really we are more intelligent than we think or than we know, because of just naturally how we are and how we were created. So to start with, we'll straight go now into chapter 1, in which the author defines what intelligence is. Interestingly, the author in the first chapter, he quotes different encyclopedias and different types of Oxford, Stanford, Encyclopedia Britannica, of the definitions of what intelligence is. Out of that, he's put together 17 definitions of what intelligence is. And like I said, it is so interesting seeing a pastor putting up together in a book all this kind of research stemming from both academics, civil, spiritual world, and trying to bring forth to the reader what intelligence really is. Mostly, what you will note in chapter 1 of what the author actually brings out is that intelligence is mainly defined in relationship to academia in most of these encyclopedias or dictionaries or books of academia. They have defined or put intelligence to be more related to academics. Now, in chapter 1, after putting this all together, right, the author, of course, comes out to bring what he thinks intelligence is by putting together all these sources of intelligence he has put up in this book to state that intelligence is actually a versatile and is the ability to use the unlimited potential and related faculties to score success in multifaceted aspects of life. Now, we will see as we go in the next other chapters as we discuss why the author puts this like this. And I like the way he put it in this way, because usually we have found ourselves defining or actually cleaning or skewing so much to the definition of intelligence as just being able to score academically. We have forgotten that even being able to sort out a home issue or problem is one of the facets we should be able to measure our intelligence. Being able, for example, if we were young, finding a route to and from and back home, or away from home and back home, is also part of intelligence. And I like the way the author puts it just in chapter 1, which really leaves you with that zeal and want to read more and just understand what this intelligence is. After all this definition it brings together from the academic and also from the dictionary and encyclopedia worlds. Now, going into chapter 2, after defining what intelligence is, the author brilliantly now tries to come up and relate exams versus intelligence. Now, I like the way the author started out in chapter 2 to just demonstrate that, look, we have a number of billionaires out there, and he showed 30 out of, in that book, he showed about 30 billionaires who had actually dropped out from school, but were able to succeed in life. So, in short, the author here was just trying to qualify his point that academics should not be the ultimate measure of intelligence. But I like the way also the author in this chapter puts it clearly that, look, let's not mistake him from looking down at academics or education as a measure or a tool to assess intelligence. The author in this chapter so meticulously puts it to say, look, education, I think, in today's world and as it is now, has proven to be one of the best systems which has been used to assess intelligence. But he clearly puts it that it's not the ultimate tool to use to measure our the intelligence of the people in the world. But he puts it's a very, very important tool which has been put in the world and has so far worked. Right? So in this chapter, I like the way he puts those two together, because then he drives home the point to do with, look, intelligence shouldn't just be measured by our academic achievements, but also some other life successes and scores should be a tool we use to measure someone's intelligence. You will see when I get to the next chapters how the author actually also puts that together. But one thing I also like is where he has put a caution to say that we shouldn't turn down education or think I like the way he started this. And I think at this point, you could see his pastoral part or side of him actually coming out, because he opens up this chapter with a verse in Job 32 verses 8, which states that, and I quote, "But there is a spirit within people, the breath of the Almighty within them that makes them intelligent." You know, it was such an intelligent way of starting a chapter with title True Source of Intelligence. Because if you are from this Christianity or spiritual rhymes, this actually closes it all, that the source of intelligence in this world or with everyone is actually the Spirit of God. Now, I like how he further qualifies this point in this chapter, because now the author brings out his personal experience when he was at secondary school and the teacher had finished teaching them genetics. As we might all know, or those at least who have done basic biology or science, we are taught that it is through inheritance that we exist and do some of the things or exhibit some of the traits we currently have. Now, I like the way the author brought out one thing, that after that we're taught the topic of genetics and their biology teacher was done and asked them a question to state that, does anyone have a comment concerning with what we have learned? And the author had put it to the teacher to say, I think then our parents have no right to question us, especially when it comes to our academic or report cards in schools, because as we have learned, we inherit some of these traits from them. So it was quite so interesting when you're reading this chapter, when he's bringing out this kind of personal experience to show and try to qualify on how he opened the chapter to state that, look, intelligence is actually coming from God himself, not actually from what we might be taught scientifically. Yes, in terms of other traits, we will have those. But I think it was so much intelligent for also the author to put it in that way by first starting with the Bible verse. In the body of that chapter, talks about the genetics lesson he had in secondary school. So he concludes this chapter by stating that, look, the true source of intelligence is the Spirit of God, and thus God himself is the only source of intelligence. Amazing, right? When he delves into the next chapter, the author tries to cement that point on what really the true source of intelligence by going into a chapter where he narrates short stories on these superhuman beings, with the title of the chapter titled Chronics of Supernatural Intelligence. Now, I've picked only 4 out of a number of individuals the author defined, or the author told the story about, to just showcase that these people were actually who lived in the ancient time, were so much intelligent, and tried to cement his point with regards that the intelligence was really from God himself. I have picked only 4 to start with, which he is also trying to cement the point with regards the whole title of the book, which is stating that you are more intelligent than you know. I like the way he starts. And in this chapter, he clearly starts to say, look, for us to be able to cement the point of what the source of intelligence, and truly to show you that you are more intelligent than you think or than you know. Let's start from the beginning, the first man, Adam. Quite amazing. Adam was able to name a lot of trees, and we can actually infer that Adam named all the trees and animals in the Garden of Eden when God brought them to him. Now, can you imagine at that time, without a memory card, without anywhere to store this but just your brain, Adam was able to name all these animals which are in existence now, and the plants and the trees? Don't you call that intelligent? Doesn't that just also cement a point that if I'm human being, as Adam, yes, of course, he was a perfect being created at that time. But if then, as a human being, Adam was able to name that without any storage, without any book, doesn't that show that we are actually also more intelligent than we know or think? Imagine the story of Solomon in the Bible. This is someone who created 3,000 proverbs, someone who composed 1,000 plus songs, right? And no wonder sometimes when I sit and look at, for example, musicians like even just our local Yoruba, to be able to compose such kind of songs and such kind of hit songs, that is intelligence in itself. And further, if we further go down and look at the history or the stories about Solomon, who's one of the wisest person in the Bible, this is a person who was an expert in plants, wildlife. We were told in the Bible that during Solomon's time in Israel, God at that time, which was being used as a medium of exchange, as money, was so much. So it also gives us an insight that Solomon was just not a song composer or composing proverbs and only interested in wildlife and plants, but he was also a great economist. Because then bringing all this together, it further cements the point where he even stated to say that intelligence shouldn't only be skewed to one thing, but in multifaceted disciplines where you can score success. And like Solomon did here, clearly shows that also that's how what intelligence is, and cementing the thing on our, the title of the book itself, you are more intelligent than you know. We know the story of Babylon the story of Daniel in Babylon, who was one of the most intelligent advisor to the kings. If we talk of King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, who at the time was ruling Babylon, was so rich. If you have read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, just imagine that kind of wisdom. And then now you add to that with people like Daniel. It truly shows that sometimes we just want to shortchange ourselves and think that we are actually not intelligent. But I think these stories cement it that we are more intelligent than we know. I like how he closed this chapter, of which now it overflows with an example of why we are more intelligent through using an example of Jesus. Now, imagine what we have read about Jesus in the Bible, how he was just able, for example, to answer the Pharisees when they asked him who they should be paying tax to. That is just a level of intelligence which is out of this world. Imagine the time the people came or wanted to throw stones at that woman or prostitute who they caught committing adultery. And when he just sat down, started drawing, asking them, who amongst you has not sinned to throw the first stone? Isn't that amazing and so much into our that we have such human examples showing extreme intelligence, and that we sometimes just change and think low of ourselves, that actually we are more intelligent than we think. Now, in the next chapter, where now the author cements it to why we are more intelligent than we think, he talks about the different scenarios and the different type of events in the Bible about Jesus Christ and why actually we are more intelligent than we think. Now, in this chapter, I like the way he brings out his pastor side because the author now cements the points by illustrating the life of Jesus Christ. And he quotes from the Bible in 1 Corinthians 2:16, which the end part states, but we have the mind of Christ. Now, this drives home actually the whole title of the book on saying why we are more intelligent than we think or than we know. Because just that last part, provided we have the mind of Christ or we have Christ within us, clearly the life of Jesus Christ on earth was the life of a man who was or who had exemplary intelligence, which was just out of this world and in our way. And in this chapter, I like the way the author illustrates the examples and cements it with this Bible verse, telling us to say, you know what? You are actually more intelligent if you have Christ in you. The author now concludes and closes this book with a chapter of how you can function in supernatural intelligence. Now, these are the 6 points of which the author brings out to be or to enable us to show that we and be able to live a life of supernatural intelligence, and actually telling us and revealing in us that we are actually more intelligent by putting across these 6 actions or 6 traits you must do or you must show for you to actually have that or bring out that intelligence in you, which you have not been able to know or which you were not knowing. And that's why when you read this book and you're coming to this chapter, you will be thinking that you should be flipping more pages and more pages to just learn why you are so more intelligent. But I think in this chapter, he actually now brings out this other part of the world, the civil part of being, to say, look, yes, the Bible has told us that as long as we have Christ in us, we are more intelligent. But he says, he goes further and puts it to say, look, we also have to put in some work. Number one, we need to boldly acknowledge and confess that we are intelligent. Number two is that we need to have the confidence or show the confidence that we are actually intelligent, because we have been created, as was shown in chapter 1 from his book, that look, we are the only creature on this earth capable of controlling the creation around us and the processes around life. But he further goes in to tell us that we shouldn't just leave it that way, because we must also be hardworking for us to be able to control that environment and around us and be able to output that intelligence in us. He further tells us that that is not only enough for you to work hard, but you must also be diligent. And action is important for you to show out or bring out that intelligence in you. And he closes it by saying, you need to put God first for you to be able to function in this supernatural intelligence, which we have discovered that we have. I like the way he closed this, because he closes it with more of course, where he asks people to confess and, of course, allow God or Jesus Christ into their lives. Because after the previous chapter, he had defined already to say, for you to be able to live in this supernatural, you need to have God in you or Jesus Christ in you, which is so brilliant of the author having designed this book like that. And in closing, I would like to quote also one of his favorite quotations from John 13:17, which states that now that you know this, you will be blessed if you practice them. Thank you very much, everyone, for this review. It's been a great time. I've enjoyed presenting this. And if you want to get this book from Pastor Choolwe, you can find them in Bookworld. But if you are not able to get the copy from Bookworld, you can still contact Gospel Envoys Church. They usually have copies of his books, and I would encourage you to read them. These will give you an insight, especially in personal growth and leadership growth, from both his experience and experience of his Christian or pastoral life, and including also his personal civil achievements of the world. Thank you very much. I think at this point, I will now allow questions and comments or concerns.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chambamba. Let me ask or make a comment while others are thinking. But before I do that, I can allow others to those who are unable to talk. They can send a message in the chat box. It will be read, and our presenter will be able to respond. Just making a comment, I have not read this book yet, but the information that you have shared, it feels like I have read. Just a comment, I know it may be categorized as a self-help book, but his introduction, intelligence, defining intelligence from other different sources to prove before he came up with his definition, quoting different reliable sources. To me, it sounded like a scholarly approach during from his introductory remarks. This is a well researched book. I know along the way, because the author, which you made a comment that he is a pastor, but I feel, or I think he is an informed pastor who is not just writing from inspirational thoughts, but is writing from a systematic and well tested content in my thought. I think I felt that I can make a comment and in that direction. Perhaps we can invite others to comment, and I will also comment later. Thank you. Mr. Gumbo, did you get my comment?
Yes, thanks. I was trying to unmute. Thanks, right. Mr. Ali. I think you rightly put it like that. And I like the way actually in the second chapter where he actually cautions everyone. Because if you actually look at his bio, or try to just even research about him, you will find that this is one pastor who has actually also taken education quite seriously. I remember attending one of his coaching or mentorship sessions. I think by that time, he was already studying for his law. But this is someone who has also taken education to be so serious. And for me, for someone who is a pastor, but also takes seriously in terms of his studies, because he has done business administration. He's done, I think he's currently still studying law. He is done an MBA. He's got all those kind of qualifications. He's done digital marketing and all that. And he's got also papers in theology and that. It was amazing when reading this book that he brings that out to say, look, in as much as even I'm a pastor, I also respect education, because if you look at what education has done, it's one of the systems in the current world, which at least has proved, has got a working system of how it can actually bring out the intelligence in someone. But he further goes on to state that, look, in as much as it's a system which has worked to bring out the best in people, we shouldn't take it as the only system. There's also these other things we should also congratulate and look at people in what they're scoring as also intelligence, and not just link it to academia success. So I think that is what I would comment on that, Mr. Ali.
All right, thank you very much. Let me respond on your behalf from what is in the chat box from Mr. and Mrs. Sinjani. The family is saying that, wow, this is great. So on point. I love how Pastor Choolwe put up his book as shared by Gumbo. So it's an appreciation how we are presented and how Pastor Choolwe has packed this book. Maybe you can respond to that, or we can invite some more questions or comments.
Yeah, maybe we can invite maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Many more. Do we have questions? Anyone, you can please unmute. You can raise your hand, or you can just unmute and ask the question or make a comment. Okay, let me see.
Maybe I can make a comment.
Yes, please, you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think I like what I've seen with this book so far. I mean, it's quite an interesting. It's bringing out some interesting facts, right? Because one of the biggest problems I think I always find with people is they, on one hand, a lot of people they normally would classify this as a motivational book, and they would already be speaking against it that way. But one thing that people are very comfortable with is negative self-talk. A lot of people keep saying things like, especially, Black people, they normally would say, no, there's something wrong with us. They would rather dwell on the negatives, and they would rather agree on what doesn't work. But one thing they don't realize is a lot of success is achieved first and foremost by having, a very strong positive self-image, having a picture of oneself that I can do things that I don't even understand. Even myself, I don't know what my limits are. Having that positive self-image. So a book like this is very positive because it would encourage people to try and look against the negative messages that they've been receiving from the time they are young. Because, when we grow up, we receive a lot of negative messages. You make a mistake, people will laugh at you. You fail an exam, they will laugh at you. I mean, you fail in grade 7. It's very, very hard for a person to recover from just failing in grade 7, or actually even getting a report where somebody has come out last in a whole class of 30 kids. So if anything can go and just try and change that sort of self-image that a lot of people have, it could be very positive, because I've met a lot of people that have succeeded very, very well, whether I'm counting success in terms of how much money people have made or how much they've gone academically. I've met people who failed before terribly. People who, I bumped into a person who had repeated grade 7 twice, and they failed. That person right now is I think they're pursuing their PhD. They've got a master's. They've got 2 masters in different fields, and they've done very, very well. They've worked as a director in a big multinational company. And when they tell you how they failed to go into grade 8, and for them to actually get into grade 8, they had to go and use their brother's name to get into grade 8. That's how bad it was. And at some point, they had to explain and say, no, I only got into grade 8 because, I used my brother's name. But then from that point onwards, when you see how their marks were so high, how they've gone to different universities around the world and done very, very well, that had to take somebody having a different self-image. So a book like this, I like it because it can help somebody look at themselves differently. It can help somebody overcome the negative messages that they've been told before. They can overcome even the initial failures that they've had before, because they might just think, I'm a useless person. I've failed before. I can't even achieve like others. That sort of thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very actually an important note you bring out, because usually sometimes, and as mostly per our setups, especially here, we would usually want to say, because no one, for example, in my family has made it this far, so there is nothing I can do past this. But I think in this book, it brings out one important thing to say, look, you as an individual, the source of this intelligence which can allow you to do all these things in the world, be able to do all these discoveries, come up with different medicine, different theories and machines, gadgets. The source is not actually from a fellow human being, but from that kind of source above, where it allows you to actually explore the world and use your brains and abilities to achieve a lot of things. And I think that is what is quite so important.
All right. Sorry, I will have to come in. We have a hand from Chawota Mioba. Chawota, Mr. Chawota, sir, you can proceed with your question, and then we will get to the chat box. We have questions and comment there. You can unmute yourself, sir, and make a comment or ask a question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Ali, and thank you very much, Mr. Gumbo, for the presentation. I think it's very motivating, and also the illustrations and scripts from the book are very enriching as well. I think what I get for me is that one of the key things that come out is that life is about belief. One needs to believe in themselves for others to be able to believe in them that they can do something. Then secondly, I think it's also about believing in God. You also need to have a sense of belief around God for this supernatural power, and also
have we lost him, Mr. Ali?
It seems we have lost him. So I was wondering, checking my connection, see if I'm the one who have lost the connection. Maybe you can make a comment on what he has said before we get to the chat box. We have a number of
human beings
there.
are the only.
Okay, sorry. Yes, come back. Mr. Chawota, you went offline. Maybe you can repeat your question or your comment briefly. I think on the second item of the source of intelligence as God. I think that's why you,
Yes,
you went off.
Yeah, so I was saying life is about belief, that one has to believe in themselves before others can believe in them. Then secondly, it's also about having this sense of belief in God. I think from the verses that have been put out, where one realizes that for this intelligence that I have in me to manifest, there's another superpower that provides me with a lot of source around the intelligence that I have. And also it's about taking into action and not limiting ourselves around what we believe in, and working towards achieving that. I can give an example. I think one of the things that I discovered about myself, there was a time I was in college, I was studying for my diploma. In the last semester, I had to drop out because of financial challenges here and there. But then I went home and still sat for this exam and passed. Then I realized that I don't need to sit behind a desk for a lecturer maybe to explain everything to me. And I think from there, I took it as a hobby, I think, to study further up to the time that maybe I was able to complete my MBA. It was quite challenging, but I think what I discovered is that my mind and brain could absorb anything. But I think the discovery came as a result of a challenge that I faced at one point, but needed to make things work. So what I've come to find out is that our limitation around what we achieve, what we do, how we do it, and whether there's a solution to it or not is mainly only limited by our imagination, and what we accept as a situation, whether good or bad, for us to say, okay, I think now I've achieved or I've gotten the results that I need, but there could be more to it that another person will be able to add on to if our imagination is maybe limited in one way or the other. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. I think you put that quite well, right? Say the belief is very important, because if you have knowledge, even when you just look at your past, you will find that most of the things which seemed impossible and you achieved them, the first thing which came to mind when you made a decision to achieve those things was that you believe that you can actually be part and parcel of that success.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Gumbo. Once again, let me just get to the chat box and read what has been posted. There are comments and questions there. So we have one from Consilia. She's saying, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I love the way Pastor Choolwe has connected the human intelligence with God. Very important points taken home. God first, reading second, putting in action and practice. Thank you, Consilia. Let me get to another one. And while Mr. Bombo is also checking from the chat box, he will make the comments. There is another one from Mr. and Mrs. Sinjani asking, how much is this book? You will respond to that. And then there is Perry saying, I need one copy. Wow. Then we have again from Roy. He is asking a question, how has the book impacted your thought in being intelligent as being street smart? Where would you draw the line from the book's perspectives? I think this question is directed to you, your experience, and we can learn from that as well. We can get to another question. Does intelligence demand a certain level of perseverance? We get to Consilia again. She's making a comment saying, my supervisor told me that reading and understanding is the only way one can become intelligent in our circle of life. Passing exams requires one to read. Settling and fitting in an organization requires one to read and understand the policies of the organization, and so is any other thing one would like to do in life. Learning, reading is the key to one becoming intelligent. Therefore, putting God first in everything is very important, for it is the driver of our lives. Thank you, Pastor Choolwe, for a great presentation. Wow, they're thanking Pastor Choolwe. It's the Chambamba was presenting, maybe someone, but anyway, because the book is from Pastor Choolwe. And then there is another one from Dan. The book presentation and accept shared quite insights. Personally, I have come to understand that success in life in most instances mirrors biblical principles and precepts. The book shares many such examples which can help us in our personal work and business endeavors. Thank you. Since you are reading through the comments, I think we have run out of time. Maybe you can respond through all the comments concurrently. Over to you, Mr. Gumbo.
All right, thanks, Mr. Ali. So I think let me start with the one from Consilia, where she is saying a wonderful presentation, very important points taken home. Okay, I think that one I'll leave it because I think that was more of a comment. How much is the book? I need a copy. The time I was buying these books, I was buying them at 100 kwacha. I'm not sure about this time, but I think the last time I checked in Book World, they should have been around that range of a price. It's not actually a very big book. It's a small book. It's just 90 pages in terms of number of pages. The size is smaller than an A5 actually. So it's actually a small book, which is easy even to read and even carry around. So in terms of a copy, yeah, like I said, you can check in Book World. If they're not there, usually Gospel Envoys Church usually they have a copy. Or you can check on his social handles. I think he's put a website link there where you can get an e-copy. Coming to the question from Roy, how has the book impacted your thought in being intelligent versus street smart? What would you draw? Where would you draw a line from the book's perspective? First of all, maybe to start with the first part of the question, how has the book impacted your thought on being intelligent? I think, first of all, in terms of my thought, the way this book has impacted me has allowed me to be able not to limit myself in terms of what I can actually do. You know, at one point I used to think to say, look, I think there's a common saying which usually goes to say that a jack of all trades is a master of none. But I think in this book, when at a point, for example, when he talked about Solomon, for me, I'm a kind of person who has a background of having done a lot of things. And sometimes I used to think to say, maybe this is gonna, for example, delay my career progression or that. But I found that in all this, having all these different abilities and utilize them, I think it has helped me in my thought that I can be a master, I can be a jack of all trades and a master of many. I think that is one impact it has put in me, because if you check even just in terms of professionally, I have done things to do with, number one, like Ali had put it in the introduction, I have data science certification. I've done computer science also in terms of my degree. But I've also got an MBA to do with business and all this. And I find that when I put all this together and other certifications I've done, they actually put me apart and actually bring out that intelligence, especially which was discussed in this book. And I think we shouldn't limit that. And when you read the story about Solomon, who was a song composer, written Proverbs, he was a wildlife specialist, a great economist. So why can't we also have all those? So I think for me, that's what it brings out. And the line between being street smart and intelligent, I think for me, when he defined that being able to score success in many facets, intelligence, I think from the source, and has been shown in examples, is that you can be both street smart and also formally smart. Where do you draw the line from the perspective of this book? I think the book for me tells clearly to say, look, I'll repeat the saying, not that you can be a jack of many trades and a master of none, but a jack of many trades and actually a master of many. Does intelligence demand a certain level of perseverance? I think the answer to this is yes. And I like the way he puts it in his closing chapter, where he said, you must work hard and be diligent about it. So if you look at perseverance, it's all about working hard and being diligent. So intelligence, yes, would demand that. Because like, even if we have trust in us and are able to put out that intelligence from us, it will require us to manifest it through the works. Coming back to Concilia's comment, I think on this one, what I can say is, yes, I think also similar thing, it requires us to also to be reading, putting God first, and then all this intelligence will manifest. The last one from Danny, the book presentation and excerpt shared were quite insightful. Thank you for that. Personally, I've come to understand that success in life most instantly mirrors biblical principles and precepts. I think that's very true. Actually, at some point, when I had read this book and then read it and then I think after another book I read at that time, The Richest Man in Babylon. And then if you collect all these stories, because if you read the original Richest Man from Babylon, you read the Bible and you read what actually today, in terms of many financial advisors will tell you, that kind of intelligence, I think it's clear, like even Roy has put it, to say, look, the biblical stories and teachings actually have been passed on from generation to generation on how, for example, even you can be financially disciplined. Because if you read about the story about the richest man in Babylon, those stories are also there in the Bible. King, what's the name is quite difficult, Nebuchadnezzar, if you read the story of Babylon, he was one of the greatest kings in Babylon, being advised by Daniel. And you could see how even the things he used to do and why even that economy was doing so well. So I think you are right on point. Biblical principles are very, very adding to our lives even today. And I think they have really proven that they can teach us. Many thanks, wonderful responses. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Roy, and I also appreciate your participation. Mr. Ali, I think I pass it over to you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed myself.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chambamba Gumbo, for the wonderful presentation. For real, just hearing from your responses to the questions that were asked. You have read the book and you have applied it. And it's a book that we can all read. And before, maybe you just wonder, if you were to rate this book from 1 to 5, and then we say 5 is the highest, what would be your rating before we close?
I would rate it 5 out of 5.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We hope Dr. Choolwe will be able to read, to watch this video on my YouTube channel, or we hope, or I can encourage others to tag him so that he can hear it for himself, and perhaps as well he can reach out to the colleagues who have inquired about the book. Thank you very much for joining us at Smart Visit Book Club, and we look forward to having you on the next meeting that we are going to have. We will have a conversation with Dr. Edwin Mumba on men's mental health awareness. That will be on the 20th March. Please make a date and invite colleagues so that we can grow together. I think without further much ado, thank you for sparing this time. All what we ask for at Smart University, we don't charge. We don't ask for a fee to belong to the book club. We don't ask for any fee to read the books that are shared or the book that you can ask. It's all free. We just ask for your time, and that time, it's your precious moment. It's the value that you attach to that moment. Thank you very much, everyone, from wherever you are joining us from. You are joining us somewhere where we can say good evening. We'll say good evening. If you are joining from the location where we are saying good night or good morning, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate the feedback that we have received. See you next time, and please find this video at Ali Kingston Mwila on my YouTube channel. You can leave your comments and you can share with others. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
You're welcome.